Today's video, I have some updates in several cases that I've been covering, and we're going to start with Chad Daybell. Now, Chad was recently in court on December 2nd. We found out the date of his trial. That will begin on January 9th, 2023, and it will go for 10 weeks. Judge Boyce scheduled it out from January 9th to March 17th or March 24th. He wanted to be sure to schedule enough time. Chad's hearing will take place in Boise, Idaho. And there were other issues that were supposed to be covered and addressed at that courtroom. However, the judge took the attorneys and they went and split off to a breakout room. They were there for over a half an hour. And then Judge Boyce came back and said he vacated the hearing and said it will be moved to a later date. Stay tuned for that date. Now, a little while back, there were also allegations that an employee with the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare encouraged Laundrie to seek out a new attorney. Mark Means got upset and filed a motion, and there's a little bit of a battle there. Now, I just recently received 70 new pages in another motion that Mark Means filed, so I'll be getting through that, and I'll keep you updated on what that says. Now, in the past, we've seen Mark Means have a few fits, and this will be interesting. And sometimes it's hard to sort through the meat and potatoes, I guess you could say, because there's a whole lot of fluff around it. And side note, Mr. Pryor, in the hearing on the 2nd, was his usual self, where he was complaining and whining. But, they worked it all out. They got the trial figured out. And so, unfortunately, we're going to have to wait for another year. But maybe this is a good thing. And Kay and Larry Woodcock talked about this upcoming date for the trial, and here's what they said.
It really doesn't seem that far away. And I know I heard several comments last night, and some from the think tank you had last night on about how long they're being in jail. Well, the clock really didn't start on the murder charges until the indictments were handed down May 25th of this year. So really, you go into January of 23, and they're right at 18, 19 months in getting done. So really, nobody should be surprised that it's going to be in 23, because, if you don't want to wait it out, then maybe you shouldn't murder people. That's a good way to handle that. Then you have no reason to complain.
That's a great argument. Larry, I'm sure that you guys are going to be there for the trial? You're making plans already that you'll be there?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
We will definitely be there.
And one more thing when it comes to the Daybell case, there was news from Court TV that the jury is reconvening, or has at the time of this recording. I believe it was yesterday they reconvened, which is very interesting, because remember, they met, I think it was in summertime, and they indicted Laundrie and Chad on more charges. So I'm wondering what's going on now. Hopefully we'll find out sooner than later, because the suspense is a little brutal. Let me know what you think. Do you think that perhaps one of the Melanies are going to be charged? Let me know your thoughts below. Or do you think it's somebody different, or nothing at all? Next is Brian Laundrie. In November, we found out what Brian's cause of death was, which is death by suicide. He shot himself in the head. And recently, there were some new headlines that Brian Laundrie's parents were moving. However, their lawyer, Steve Bertolino, said that that was a hoax. He said it was either Photoshop or someone put the sign, took the picture, and then took the sign down. He said, "We don't know, nor do we care." And we're still waiting to find out anything about the notebook, whether he had a suicide note in there or not, or if there were journal entries, anything of that nature. Although I don't know if the public will ever know, because of the circumstances surrounding Brian now, since he's deceased. So I'm curious if we will ever find out, maybe, and maybe not. Now, in the Summer Wells case, there was a recent search that was conducted to search for little Summer, and she's been missing since the middle of June. Agent and deputies focused on overgrown areas that they said were previously difficult to access because there was high grass and heavy foliage. And they searched for 2 days, but TBI said there's no significant developments that occurred in their search. And Sheriff Ronnie Lawson said that this search had been planned and that the plan was to do the search after the first frost. He said, "We had planned on doing this after the frost and the foliage fell and doing a more detailed search. We've got over 120 officers and different people searching. They started skirmish lines and are going pretty much over the same places with a lot of vegetation out of the way. We thought this would be an opportunity to go over it again slowly and take another look as thorough as possible." Now, Leslie Earhart, who's the spokesperson for TBI, said, "Teams continued to search the rugged terrain of the Beach Creek community. A dive team with the Sullivan County Sheriff's Office assisted in searching a body of water. Approximately 350 acres have been covered in the last 2 days." She said, "We will continue to conduct searches in specific areas as any new information is developed." And as of November 23rd, the Summer Wells Reward Fund is now at $70,915. And I'll put the information down below in the description if you'd like some info on how to donate. And anyone with information regarding to Summer or her whereabouts is asked to call 1-800-TBI-FIND. Next is the Justin Evans case. Now, many of you have been asking if anything has developed in Justin Evans' case, and the answer is not yet. However, it's going to be 1 full year since Justin's been killed. And I know this very weekend, a year ago, Justin was helping his family with the Christmas tree, and that's the last time that they ever saw Justin alive again. And it's been a roller coaster of a year with the lies and the BS surrounding this case. And not to mention the back and forth from the authorities for saying it's suspicious and then chalking it up to a suicide. And even though a young man who lost a huge amount of blood in his shed and later was said by the authorities that he walked out of that shed and walked about a 10 to 15 minute walk to the swamp, which is scientifically impossible. So I'm hoping that the 1 year mark will bring some answers. I guess we'll see. I did touch base a little bit with Justin's family, and they said they're still waiting to get some answers as well. Now, if you'd like for me to do a 1 year recap along with some new deep dives, please let me know in the comments below. And speaking of anniversaries, it's now been 2 years since Marshal Iwaasa has been missing. I covered his case about a year ago, and he's the young Canadian guy who lived in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and he drove 2 hours south to Lethbridge, Alberta one night, and he stopped to visit his mom, and then he also went to his storage unit, and no one heard from Marshal ever again. Now, his truck was found a week later, almost a 14-hour drive northwest near Pemberton, British Columbia. And it was found on a forestry road. Now, the truck was burned and the steering column was taken out of it, and still no sign of Marshal. Now, the question is, what the heck happened to him? And did he even travel in that truck? Or did something happen to him back in Alberta? There's so many questions, and it's so heartbreaking because they have very, very, very little answers. The last known place that Marshal was at that storage unit, and he couldn't get in that night. He tried, I think it was around 10 p.m., but he tried at night, and then I guess he had to wait till morning until the actual storage unit opened. You couldn't get in. So it did show the attempts made to get into the storage unit, and then nothing after that. And unfortunately, the storage unit only had recordings of the area and the property for only up to a week. And it was unfortunate that it was just after that they found Marshall's truck, so they couldn't get any video. It's very heartbreaking. Now, recently, the family did an update in the Calgary Herald, and It said a petition asking the Lethbridge Police Service to classify the investigation into his disappearance as a criminal case instead of a missing persons case has gathered almost 6,000 signatures since the family started it last year. Doing so would allow investigators to look into his activities beyond when he was last seen. It would also allow police to access Iwaasa's additional cell phone and bank records. They haven't classified yet this case as criminally suspicious. It says, so far police have said there is no evidence to suggest foul play that would warrant a criminal investigation. And it says if the disappearance becomes a criminal investigation, police would request DNA and have secured evidence that can be processed if the classification changes. Now the crazy thing is Marshal's truck was still up in the forestry road, and they never took it into to do anything with it. So it's frustrating. So if you know anything and you've seen anything or something jogs your memory, please call the police at 403-328-4444 or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. I'll have that in the description box below. Now, another anniversary without answers is little Orrin and Orson West. Many of you have been asking about little Orrin and Orson and if there's any updates. Orrin and Orson went missing last year, and they were reported missing on December 21st. However, there really hasn't been any updates, and they still have not been found. But in October, their biological father spoke out and said, it's not a good feeling, not knowing. You sit up and think about it all the time. Gotta make yourself think about something different, something positive, something happy, something better. They might not remember me, but I remember them, and I'll show them I don't care how long it takes, how hard it's going to be. I won't give up. I'll never give up. I hope they can find some more answers. A lot of people have said, I don't think those little boys ever made it to California City. We just hope that they can find Orrin and Orson, and however long it takes. Now, recently I did a video on a man named Craig MacDonald. He's a Canadian man who was killed after he went out for a chill night at the local Boston Pizza to watch his favorite hockey team with his friends and family. And according to Craig's sister, some sort of argument happened with another guy, and the guy who was arguing with Craig left the restaurant, and his name is Abilaziz Mohammed. Now, Craig left later that night, and Abilaziz waited for Craig in the parking lot and came up to him and shot him dead. And Abilaziz is still wanted. So there's a killer on the loose. He's wanted for first-degree murder. It's been a month and a half, and this guy still hasn't been caught. And if you have any information or you see this guy, you can contact the police at 416-808-7400 or Crime Stoppers anonymously at 416-222-8477. Now, due in court this week is Letecia Stauch. And in the last hearing, we heard that there was going to be new evidence submitted in regards to after Gannon was killed. And this evidence is going to be presented this Thursday on December 9th. It should be interesting, as always, when it comes to Letecia. And I don't know if it's going to be ridiculous or not, but I have a little bit of a sneaky suspicion that it's going to be. Let me know your thoughts below. Just a quick update for you. I'm going to be working on some other updates. Stay tuned for this week. There's lots coming your way. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please like and don't forget to share. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.